much for joining me today. I'm Colleen Klimczak. I'm an organizational and productivity coach and a certified professional organizer. I own Peace of Mind Professional Organizing, LLC. Since 2003, I've been helping my clients live better lives through organizing and organizational and productivity coaching. I support my clients and my community with coaching, in-person and virtual organizing, my weekly podcast called Your Organized Life with Colleen Klimczak, a free weekly virtual productivity session called Finish Line Friday, a free weekly email newsletter, and regular content on Facebook and Instagram. I also offer presentations and professional development to groups and companies. And coming soon, I will be launching a membership circle, we are one step closer, to support my community with even more coaching and productivity content. Want to finish strong this week? Join me for Finish Line Friday every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Central for a 2-hour productivity session. Drop me an email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com to request my Zoom room link or follow the Zoom room link on my Instagram or Facebook pages. Welcome to Your Organized Life, episode 127. So I have been thinking a lot about my content and the updates that I made to my website and things that I want to do differently going forward. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity for me to talk about my content and share some insight and also ask you all for any ideas anything that you'd like to hear about. So kind of planting that seed right there. So the topic for today is why I make the content I make and why I keep it short. So starting with the end in mind, I host a podcast because some of my community members like to read my articles and newsletters, and some of my community prefers to consume their content by listening to it like a podcast. We all have different learning styles, and I want to be accessible to everyone. Also, with the end in mind, though, as an organizer and a productivity coach, I never want to waste your time, or mine, to be honest. And as a person with ADHD who works with many people who also have ADHD, rambling on and on with no point is torture. So I keep my episodes relatively short, and that's the point. All right, so why, right? Let's talk about that some more. Today, I'm sharing insight into the content I make and why, and I would love to hear from you about what else you'd like to hear about. So please share. I recorded this content recently on an especially long morning commute. I have a service area of within 30 minutes of my home, but occasionally I need to go a little farther. If you know me personally, you know that I spend a lot of time driving back and forth from Illinois to Indiana and then to Michigan and back, of course. I probably can and have made this drive in my sleep, but I didn't that day, I promise. So as I headed to Northwest Indiana, it was a cold and clear day, and I got an early start, like before 7 a.m., and I had planned to use my commute to catch up on some podcasts. So there are some podcasts that I listen to in addition to checking in on my own while I drive. And also, if you know me, you may know that I was sick for a week or so recently. I attended an amazing professional conference in downtown Chicago, and then pretty much everybody at conference got sick. So I was kind of laid out with the flu, and it sucked. And since I was home in bed, I wasn't commuting, and I had a handful of episodes of the podcasts to listen to. Because if I'm not commuting, I'm not likely listening to podcasts. Because here's the thing. I love the idea of podcasts. I love to listen to them. I'm a fan. I mean, I host a podcast, for crying out loud. It is awesome to me that people can find podcasts on topics that interest them and really explore those topics. They find, what resonates, and they learn more. I think podcasts can be educational and entertaining and community building, or all of the above. One podcast I listen to every week is the EP podcast because it's about my community. The guests are often people I know. It is educational and informative and entertaining. My own producer, Chris, hosts it. And he doesn't like to hear this, but sometimes I listen to it at double speed because I want the information, but I don't always have the time to listen to it in real time. So sometimes I choose a more efficient way to consume podcasts. And the funny part to me is that he always sounds alarmed, as anyone does, when I play it at double time. But I digress. The point is, I love the idea of podcasts, and I am selective in when and what I listen to. Why am I telling you this? If you regularly listen, I recently mentioned my new massage therapist. And at his appointment last night, my husband mentioned to her that I had mentioned her in my recent episode. And he shared the name of the podcast and said, oh, and they're really short episodes, which makes them more consumable. Yeah, one of the features I consider a good thing is that they're short. I often lead with, yes, I have a podcast, but I promise it's useful information and my episodes are short. So why are my episodes short? Let me unpack that for you. In addition to coaching and organizing, I'm a professional musician. I get paid to sing, to play my flute. It's also my ministry, and I love it. I spend a lot of time singing. It enhances worship, but I can also get bored of listening to myself if I think that we've been singing too much for too long, etc., because I never want to waste people's time. I personally like a concise podcast, and therefore I host a concise podcast. I have a hard time letting myself ramble on. I record the draft content. I submit that recording to a transcription service and turn it into a written article. And then I read the article to record the content. And then I publish the article on my blog. I focus on editing. I don't want to say things that are unnecessary. I have a good feel for how to write a 10 to 15 minute episode with intros and public service announcements and things like that, but I don't always record a straightforward content originally. Since I often record it initially while I'm driving, I might have to talk myself into focus, or I might get distracted by things around me. If I ever shared a blooper reel of those recordings, it might get very colorful as I comment on other drivers, and so I edit to stay concise. Because I don't want to listen to myself for longer than that, to be honest. And I can't listen to a podcast that rambles on and never gets to the point. Someday I may interview people, and those will be longer episodes. But for now, I choose not to, for personal preference and for scheduling. No matter what, I don't think I could ever listen to a podcast episode that was 2 or 3 hours long. That gives me a headache just to think about. Because here's another tidbit. I like to listen to podcasts, but auditory learning is not actually my strongest learning style. Whoa, right? So I created a podcast because for many of my clients and my community, auditory learning is their desired learning platform. I wanted to be able to support all of my community members. So I write an article every week, and it comes out with my newsletter on Tuesdays and in long form on Fridays. I send those out to 1,600 people via email. And I share it on LinkedIn and Facebook, wherever people want to consume my content. And I also record the podcast episodes. I want to respect people's learning styles, and I think that people should recognize those and understand those for themselves. Because I think when they understand their learning styles, they can use that information to live a better life. I write articles and send out newsletters for people who like to read. They would be my visual and verbal and auditory learners. I host a podcast for people who like to listen, my auditory and kinesthetic learners. Occasionally, I post videos. Why? Because videos satisfy my visual learners. These are the reasons why I create content in multiple ways. In addition, I have ADHD, and I'm not going to disrespect the ADHD brain for myself or others by rambling on and not getting to the point. I'm a great listener, and I love to share that gift and skill with my clients and community and the people around me with active and reflective listening. I find people fascinating. I could listen to my clients forever because that's the purpose. But listening to something without purpose, that sets my teeth on edge. And I know that about myself. I listen to the podcasts I like while I drive because it engages my brain. I learn new things, and I enjoy the feeling of being a part of something, of a community. I don't listen while I do other things because my brain is engaged with those other things. And I am sharing all of this because awareness matters. Awareness is where it's at. Professional development, personal development, it all starts with awareness so that the choices we make can be intentional and purposeful. And we come to awareness sometimes through our interactions with others. So I'm sharing all of this as commentary for you to see if there's something in what I have to say today that resonates with you. So to sum up, right? I started with the end in mind because I wanted you all to know where we were headed. Again, I'm not going to ramble on for no reason. I host a podcast because some of my community members like to read my articles and newsletters, and some of my community prefers to consume their content by listening, because we all have different learning styles and we need to understand that. But I also never want to waste your time, and so I will continue to keep my podcast episodes and newsletters informative and educational and hopefully entertaining. That's the plan, right? That's the goal. And again, I'm sharing the insight into the content that I make today and why, because I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you because support around getting things done is what productivity coaching is all about. If it's time to invest in yourself and explore coaching for organizing and productivity, I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line via email at colleen@peaceofmindpo.com or message me through my social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you next week.